One of the first plants I bought was Hornwort. Now today, after having it for over a year, I have very mixed feelings about this plant. In this video, I go through both what I love and hate about the plant. Hi there, it's Connor. Welcome to my channel. When I was planning out my first aquascape almost 2 years ago now, I wanted easy plants that were low tech, that were all foreground, midground, and background. I found Hornwort that was easy to grow and it grew very tall. And I also had about a 2-foot tall tank, so it fit perfectly for what I was looking for. Now, it did meet up to these traits and it was very easy to grow and it grew very tall and as well fast. But now after having it and putting it in multiple tanks, I have kind of mixed feelings. It has all those traits, but it can be also kind of annoying in some areas too. So first I'll start off by going through some of the basics and how to care for Hornwort. Now for the growth and size of the plant, this is somewhere where it does really shine. It grows very fast. You can actually, when it's thriving, you can actually know the difference between day to day. I remember the first time when I had it, it started off slow, but then it hit a point where it was just every day I would notice it would be like half an inch taller, and it was kind of crazy to see, especially for the first time I had aquatic plants. I never had thought you'd really see that much growth that quick. So they're very cool for that reason. Once it gets going, it'll just keep going and going and going. And it supposedly can grow up to about 10 feet in the wilds. Now, keeping it in the aquarium, I've seen it grow at least over 3 feet. At that point, it starts to just be flat at the top of the water, so you probably want to trim it at that point. But I can say it'll probably grow to whatever height your tank is and not even go past that. Now, for water parameters, this is a super hardy plant. For almost any type of aquarium or even pond you're going to keep, you can keep this, and this plant is found all over the world. The temperatures, it can tolerate anywhere from 50 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit, a pH of about 6 to 7.5, and a hardness of 5 to 15. There's the only tanks you might not be able to keep them in is like an African cichlid tank where your pH might be as high as 8 or something. It might not do as well in that. Any kind of tropical tank, goldfish tank, or pond, it should absolutely thrive in. And the temperatures I've kept it in where I've seen it grow amazingly is 78 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, a pH rate around 7.4, so it is at the upper range, and then a hardness between 10 to 14. So now that we talked through some basics, I want to kind of go through the pros and cons of this plant and then my overall opinion on it. So first, let's talk about the positive things. So the first that I've said before is it grows fast, very fast. This is very cool if you want an easy plant that you'll actually see the growth and as well as you have a tall tank. Now it's also very hardy, both in terms of real water parameters it can tolerate, temperature it can tolerate, but also it's tough. It can tolerate tougher species. I have it with blood parrots, and then I've kept it with goldfish too. Now it also can be floating or attached. The one thing that is not recommended to bury it in the substrate. Actually, the first time I had it, I didn't read that and know that, and the bottoms will die off if you do that. They will rot away. But you can either just float it. A lot of people just float it at the top and almost make like almost kind of looks like clouds at the top. Or you can attach it, like I have it attached and hooked around driftwood. You can attach it to rocks. Really can attach it to anything, and then it can just look like a normal plant growing up. The next is it's easy to propagate. Really, all you have to do is snip a little off, and then that'll keep growing. So one positive thing is you buy it once. If you take care of it, you can make a whole bunch more, whether you want to sell it or just have it really take over your tank, or even split it between tanks, kind of whatever you want to do. If you want to do that, you can just keep trimming it, and the little bits you trim off, they'll just grow into full stems of Hornwort. Along with that is it's very inexpensive. Since it's so easy to grow, that makes sense. But you can get it pretty much on any plant website, and even eBay or anything. And if you shop around and find ones that have good reviews, they'll usually send you a good chunk of it. Next, it doesn't require any special lighting, fertilizer, or CO2. Obviously, if you do use some fertilizer, like an all-in-one, it'll grow better. But yeah, you don't need it at all. Lighting, it can tolerate very low lighting. That's one of the positive things about it. So you can do high, low lighting, whatever you want. It'll pretty much grow almost in any aquarium. The only thing you got to watch out for is you don't want parameters to switch too quickly on it. But other than that, it's very easy to grow and doesn't require anything special. So almost any tank, even if you're just a beginner, you can just put it in any tank and have some easy growing plants. And along with that, yeah, it's very beginner friendly. You don't need to do anything special. You can pretty much just get it, attach it or float it to the top, and it'll pretty much just grow. And you don't have to do much about it. And then it's also compatible with nearly any fish. Obviously, any of the like tetras or smaller fish, it'll be great for them. But even like blood parrots or goldfish, some other cichlids that are known to uproot plants, even if they uproot them, it's not going to damage them. They don't have roots on them, so it'll just move up, float up, and then you can just reattach it. So now the negative things about hornwort. Now, one of the positive things was it grows fast, but it can also be a negative. It can grow too fast. And this can be annoying. I remember when I first got it, I was so happy. I saw it just, every week just grow up and up and up till it got to the top of the tank. But then once it got to the top of the tank, it just didn't stop growing. And it kind of got sort of, I like the look of like letting things go natural and just seeing where it goes. But it really just kind of got ugly after that point. So, and then the thing is, once you trim it, it still kept growing quick and quick. So it was something where, more than once a week, I had to trim it down. Unless I wanted to give it a good cut, then it would go for a while. But I did like the look of it taking up the whole tank. But, once a week went by, it was, too much again. So it requires trimming very often once it gets growing. And that can be kind of annoying, especially if you like just let your aquascapes go and see what happens. It's going to kind of take over your tank if you're not careful. So that can kind of be a pain. The next, kind of along with the growing too fast, the problem I've had really with it is it can grow very uneven. So often when I put it in a tank, I love it at first. So I have a bunch of them. It looks really good. At first it starts to grow up. It looks great. They're all kind of growing evenly. But then once I start to trim it, they kind of start to grow sort of uneven. And they'll kind of get weird growths. Underneath, it won't like grow as well, or start to die off underneath because there'll be so much at the top. And kind of what happens is it just grows unevenly and doesn't look as good. And it's hard to keep trimming it to also have it stay healthy and look the way it originally did. So my experience is when I put it in Escape, I love it at first. I kind of love it for the first couple trims. And then after that, it just kind of starts to grow and do its own thing. And it usually isn't my favorite to what I like. The next I found is it does algae up pretty easily, especially on kind of the innards, the bottoms, not where it's growing at the tops, but like underneath. So the thing is, you kind of have to, when you're going into maintenance, you want to do this often is kind of shake it up, get the algae out of it. Because if you let it go for a month or two, I'll find there'll be a lot of algae underneath, in the middle of the bunch. And then those will end up a lot of times start dying off just from not getting enough light. And then what also happens to me is if that happens, sometimes, because I usually just attach it simply to driftwood and stuff, I'll take them out, put them in a bucket and clean off all the algae. But what happens a lot when I do that is a lot of the needles fall off a lot of parts of them. So I ended up with a lot less. It actually happened recently. So I had a big bunch, but a lot of it starting to brown up and algae up. And I cleaned a lot of it, but there was a lot of parts of the hornwort that just didn't look too good after. So now I'm left with a lot less. So that's one thing to think about, but I found it kind of a pain, is mostly because it looks so good and then it'll slowly not be as good. And then it's kind of hard to get back to the state of what it once was, I found. Along with that, it kind of can shed a lot of times. This is more prominent if there's areas that don't get enough light, or it gets too bushy at the top and then underneath doesn't get enough light. It can just kind of be annoying because especially if it's not an open part, it can be a pain to clean all those needles up. And although it's very good for soaking up nitrates, it can also just shed a lot and make a lot of dead leaves in your aquarium, kind of increasing your nitrates. So it has a benefit, but you also need to make sure you keep on top of your maintenance. Otherwise, the plant is actually going to hurt you more than it helps you. And then, so my kind of final thoughts on hornwort and my recommendation for someone thinking about getting hornwort is I'm kind of very mixed on it. Whenever I put it first in the aquarium, I absolutely love it. I especially love that it's low tech and it's hardy and it's very good for soaking up nitrates. And I always love it for the first month or two. I always think it looks so cool. It has the pine needle look, so it's an easy way to get another texture into your planter tank. But basically, for the negative I said, I always get annoyed with it. It grows uneven, and it starts to parts start to die off, and trying to clean those off or get rid of those, it just ends up always with a lot less hornwort, and then it just doesn't look as nice. And I get to a point where I have to get more, or grow some off in another tank. That's probably the best solution. But I always find that I love it at first, and then it ends up not being as nice, and either end up just getting rid of it, or it just, doesn't look as good in the end. But if you do want a low maintenance plant, or especially if you want to float it and just have it more for the functional aspect, then I think it's very good for that. You kind of have to just make sure you keep on top of the maintenance if you want it to actually stay looking nice, especially if you're organizing it in an aquascape. And then also just for tanks that, I like plants in tanks, but some tanks, especially with like bigger goldfish, a lot of plants you can't have, this will be a great one for them. So I do like it for tanks that need hardy plants. And then it can be a nice addition to low-tech scapes that require, or that you want a different texture for. So kind of on the fence. I think it's something to try. And you'll find if it works for you or not. I love it in the beginning of scapes, but then not so much after a few months is my kind of opinion. So anyway, thanks for checking out the video. I'd love to hear others' opinions on Hornwort and answer any questions in the comments. Also, if you liked the video, please give it a quick like, as it helps others find the channel and the video. Anyway, I'll catch everyone in the next video.